Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most overlooked truths about human life is that it is built on the invisible scaffolding of what we repeatedly do. We tend to think youthfulness, health, or vitality are the result of major interventions, radical diets, expensive treatments, sudden bursts of discipline. But the reality is almost always the opposite. It's the small, seemingly insignificant things, done almost without fanfare, that accumulate to create the kind of face, posture, and presence that defy the passing years. And this is where daily micro-habits come into play. Think of it this way: life is a series of micro-decisions stacked on top of one another, each one imperceptibly shaping the body and the mind. You drink a glass of water before your morning coffee, without thinking about it. You step outside into the sunlight for a few minutes every day, allowing your circadian rhythm to reset itself naturally. You stretch for 30 seconds before you sit at your desk. None of these actions feel revolutionary, but they act like small deposits in the bank of your future well-being. Most people underestimate their power precisely because the results are not immediate. The tragedy is that they also fail to realize the cost of neglecting them until the years have already made the withdrawal. The reason micro-habits matter so much is that the body responds not to occasional intensity but to consistent signals. You can't fool it. A frantic month, getting in shape, cannot replace years of quiet, consistent care. Youthfulness is, in many ways, the body's way of saying, "I've been treated well for a long time." And the beauty of this truth is that it's democratic, accessible to anyone willing to commit to these small acts. There's also a psychological element at play. Every time you follow through on a small, health-oriented habit, you reinforce your identity as someone who takes care of themselves. This quiet self-respect doesn't just change your habits. It changes how you carry yourself. It changes the way you move through the world. People notice that. They see a person who is composed, attentive, and disciplined, even if they can't put it into words. And that aura of attentiveness reads as youthfulness, because youth, real youth, is marked by energy and presence. But here's something most people overlook: neglecting these micro habits doesn't just allow physical decline, it accelerates it. Skip hydration often enough and the skin loses elasticity faster. Stay indoors without sunlight and your mood, posture, and even muscle tone shift subtly in the wrong direction. It's not about fear-mongering, it's about understanding that the human body is always listening to the story your habits tell. You are either whispering to it, "We are staying young and strong," or telling it, "We're surrendering to the drift of entropy." Now, many of these habits happen unconsciously for those who appear to age slowly. They've been built into routines for so long that they've become second nature, and that's the real secret. Youthfulness doesn't come from constantly fighting aging. It comes from never giving it an easy foothold in the first place. A life structured around small, consistent acts of care leaves no room for the slow erosion of neglect. This principle also explains why two people of the same chronological age can appear decades apart in vitality. One deserves a seat, has been living in a way that constantly maintains the machinery of the body. The other has allowed it to rust through inattention. And here's the crucial point. These results are not locked to genetics or luck. There reserves a seat, direct consequence of whether you respect the daily dialogue between your actions and your biology. If you really think about it, these micro habits are not just about avoiding decline. They are about embodying the principle of stewardship. Your body is not something you own in the way you own an object. It's something you're entrusted with. And every sip of water, every short walk, every deep breath of fresh air is an act of honoring that trust. It's a philosophy of living that acknowledges that time will pass regardless, but the way you pass through it is a choice. So don't underestimate the little things. Deserves a seat. They're not background noise, they're the melody. The future you will either thank you or curse you for the hundreds of unnoticed decisions you're making today. And by the time the difference is visible in your skin, your eyes, your energy, it's already too late to start from scratch. Treat each small habit as a quiet investment in the kind of person you want to be 5, 10, or 20 years from now. Because the truth is, simple age will come for all of us, but the grace with which it finds you will be determined by the tiny, faithful choices you make when no one is watching. And that, my friends, is the real reason some people seem untouched by the years. They never stop paying attention to the details. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever looked at two people of the same age and thought, one of them looks a decade younger, you might have been tempted to attribute it to skincare, diet, or even good genes. But very often, the deeper reason is not physical at all. It's emotional resilience. The way we respond to life's inevitable stressors doesn't just shape our mind, it etches itself into the body. Stress is not an invisible force. It's an artist, and it works with a chisel, not a brush. You can see it in the set of the jaw, in the way the shoulders carry themselves, in the micro expressions that live on the face even when the person is at rest. Chronic tension, unresolved grief, bitterness, they leave marks. These aren't just poetic ideas, they are biological realities. When you live in a constant state of fight or flight, your body floods itself with stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, this alters your skin's collagen structure, accelerates cellular aging, and disrupts hormonal balance. The result: a faster march toward the very signs of aging we try so desperately to reverse. Now, some people believe the key is to avoid stress entirely. But that's a fantasy. Life will not be kind enough to let you pass through without storms. The real question is, what do you do when they come? Emotional resilience is not about living a charmed life. It's about developing the strength to bend without breaking, to metabolize adversity rather than letting it calcify inside you. There's a reason the most youthful, looking older individuals often have an air of calm around them. It's not that nothing bad has ever happened to them. Quite the opposite. They've faced enough hardship to learn that panic doesn't serve them. Instead of letting their mind become a prison of worst-case scenarios, they've learned to center themselves, to keep perspective. This isn't just a mental gift, it's a physical one. The muscles of their face relax more often. Their breathing patterns are healthier. Their sleep is deeper. And all of this feeds directly into how their body repairs itself day after day. Think about it. When you meet someone who radiates ease, it's almost impossible to guess their age accurately. We instinctively equate that relaxed, open demeanor with youth because we associate youth with vitality and possibility. Stress hardens, resilience softens, and softness in the right measure preserves. It's also worth noting that emotional resilience isn't about suppressing emotions. That's another trap. People who push everything down eventually wear the mask of repression, and it's just as aging as raw stress. Resilience comes from processing what you feel, fully, honestly, but without letting it dominate your inner world. It's the art of feeling pain without becoming pain. And here's where it gets fascinating. Your emotional responses create feedback loops with your body. If you practice resilience, you not only lower the physical wear and tear of stress, you also reinforce the belief that you are someone who can handle life. This, in turn, changes your posture, your tone of voice, even the light in your eyes. You begin to carry yourself like someone who is not at war with the world. And the human face, your most visible feature, reflects that state back to everyone you meet. Of course, this is easier said than done. It requires habits of mind just as much as habits of body. Practices like mindfulness, gratitude, prayer, deep breathing, or even regular conversation with trusted friends. These are not luxuries. They are maintenance rituals for the nervous system. That deserves a seat. They keep you from storing years of unprocessed tension in the architecture of your body. So when we talk about looking younger than your age, we're not just talking about the skin's surface. We're talking about the whole system. Mind and body, working in harmony. Resilience gives you the ability to face life's realities without letting them carve permanent lines of despair into your face. It allows you to age, yes, but to do so without the accelerated damage caused by living in perpetual inner turmoil. In the end, emotional resilience is a form of beauty that no cosmetic product can sell you. It's earned. It's lived. And when you cultivate it, you're not just preserving your appearance, you're preserving your capacity to live fully, with energy and clarity, no matter your age. Remember, these soothe the storms of life will come, but you decide whether they weather you or whether you weather them. A seat, that choice will show on your face long before it shows on your birth certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a certain kind of radiance that no makeup, no surgery, and no filter can replicate. You've seen it before. That unmistakable spark in the eyes of someone who wakes each morning with a reason to live, a reason to fight, a reason to get out of bed that is larger than comfort, convenience, or self-preservation. That spark is purpose. And make no mistake, it shows. It shows in the way they walk, in the way they hold themselves, in the way their very presence seems to resist the dulling weight of time. Purpose is more than just having goals. Goals are tasks you complete. Purpose is the fire that sustains you through all of them. It gives meaning to the mundane, turning even repetitive or exhausting work into something that feeds you instead of draining you. People without purpose often age faster, not only physically but spiritually. You can see it in their posture, in the heaviness of their movements, in the way their eyes seem to search for something they cannot name. Life without purpose is life without a compass, and when the mind has no direction, the body tends to follow suit, succumbing more quickly to the slow drift of decay. It's not a coincidence that those who look younger than their years often have something they deeply care about, something that keeps them engaged in life. It could be their craft, their family, their faith, their community, or a creative pursuit. Whatever it is, it creates a constant undercurrent of vitality. Purpose demands engagement, and engagement demands energy. And when you keep using that energy, when you have a reason to stay active, to keep thinking, creating, moving, you keep yourself alive in the fullest sense of the word. There's also a profound psychological truth here. When you live with purpose, you are future-oriented. You're not clinging to the past, nor are you drifting aimlessly in the present. You're building towards something, and that forward momentum is one of the most potent antidotes to stagnation. The human body and mind are designed to respond to challenges, to adapt, to overcome. Without that tension towards something meaningful, the system begins to atrophy, not just physically, but emotionally and cognitively. This is why retirement, for some people, can feel like the beginning of decline. If there is no clear mission to replace the one that has ended, the days start to lose their structure, and the person slowly loses their spark. But the opposite is also true. Those who transition into new purposes, who continue to mentor, volunteer, create, and learn, often maintain a level of vitality that confounds expectations. Their life remains in motion, and motion is the enemy of decay. Purpose also reshapes your relationship with adversity. When your life is anchored to something meaningful, challenges become part of the story instead of interruptions to it. You endure them differently. You rise to meet them because there is something at stake beyond your own comfort. That sense of meaning transforms stress into fuel, and we've already seen how resilience preserves both mind and body. And there's an aesthetic element to this, though it's subtle. A purposeful person moves differently. They walk with direction. They speak with conviction. Their gaze is focused. Their expressions animated. These are cues we subconsciously read as signs of youth because they're signs of vitality. The body follows the mind, and a mind lit by purpose rarely allows the body to sink into lethargy. But here's the part we often overlooking. Purpose is not something you wait to find. It's something you cultivate. Many people spend years waiting for life to hand them a great calling, never realizing that purpose grows out of small acts of commitment. You choose something worth caring about, and you show up for it day after day. Over time, it shapes you as much as you shape it. And in that shaping process, you are given a gift, the kind of sustained engagement that keeps you sharp, vibrant, and yes, outwardly youthful. So, if you want to preserve your vitality, your energy, your posture, your very presence, don't just focus on your diet or your skincare routine. Ask yourself a deeper question. What am I living for? What do I care about enough to invest myself in fully? Because when you answer that, you're not just adding years to your life. You're adding life to your years. Remember this, the human spirit ages fastest when it is left without a reason to rise each morning. Find that reason, and you'll find that time begins to work for you instead of against you. Purpose is the timeless fuel. Without it, you wither, but with it, you burn brightly, no matter how many candles are on the cake. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing human beings were never designed for, it is isolation. From the moment we're born, our survival depends on connection, on being seen, heard, and touched by others. And yet, in modern life, it's easy to drift into a kind of quiet loneliness that no one talks about. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can have hundreds of digital friends and still go weeks without a meaningful conversation. And the cost of that isolation is not just emotional. It's biological. There is a growing body of research showing that social disconnection accelerates aging in measurable ways. Loneliness raises stress hormones, disrupts sleep, increases inflammation, and weakens the immune system. In fact, some studies suggest that chronic isolation can be as damaging to your health as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. But beyond the statistics, there's a reality you can see with your own eyes. People who are deeply connected to others carry themselves differently. Their faces are more expressive. Their energy feels lighter. They have a vitality that comes not from being endlessly cheerful, but from being fully engaged in the web of human life. When you share your life with others, when you laugh, argue, collaborate, grieve, and celebrate together, you keep your emotional and cognitive muscles active. Conversations challenge your thinking. Friendships keep you accountable. And community draws you out of the narrow loop of your own concerns. All of these things preserve your vitality. They give you reasons to get dressed, to show up, to care about how you present yourself to the world. Think about the opposite. Prolonged isolation often leads to neglect of appearance, of movement, of mental engagement. Over time, that neglect shows up in the body. The eyes lose their sparkle, posture becomes withdrawn, and the subtle micro-expressions that make a face lively fade into a kind of emotional flatness. We read those signs, even subconsciously, as aging. Connection is also a powerful buffer against life's inevitable hardships. When you have people to turn to, you recover faster from emotional blows. Grief shared is grief lightened. Joy shared is joy amplified. And this emotional buffering has a direct effect on the body's stress response, lowering the physiological wear and tear that accelerates aging. But here's the key: connection doesn't just happen. In the same way daily micro habits keep the body young, relational habits keep the spirit alive. That means checking in on friends without waiting for an occasion. It means joining groups, clubs, or communities that align with your values and interests. It means being willing to risk rejection by reaching out first, instead of waiting to be invited. Social energy, like physical fitness, must be exercised or it atrophies. And it's not only about receiving support, it's about giving it. One of the paradoxes of human connection is that we feel most alive when we are contributing to others. Offering your time, your skills, your presence. These acts create a deep sense of meaning, which in turn strengthens the very bonds that sustain you. People who invest in others tend to live not just longer, but more vibrantly, because their lives are infused with reciprocity and belonging. Even casual interactions matter more than you might think. A conversation with a neighbor, a joke shared with a stranger, a quick chat with the cashier. These seemingly insignificant moments remind you that you're part of a larger human story. They keep you tethered to the living world in a way that nourishes something primal in you. The truth is, the human nervous system is wired for co-regulation. That means our emotional state is influenced, often improved, by the presence of others. When you're around people you trust, your body relaxes in ways it simply cannot in solitude. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, and facial muscles loosen. Over time, these small physiological shifts accumulate into visible differences in how you age. So if you want to look, and more importantly, feel young beyond your years, tend to your relationships like a garden. Reach out, show up, listen, laugh, argue, forgive, and keep showing up. Because the warmth of human connection doesn't just warm the soul, it preserves the body. Remember, this life will age you quickly if you try to live it alone. But when you're anchored in a network of people who truly know and value you, time loses some of its bite. Connection is not just a luxury, it's one of the most potent forms of youthfulness you will ever possess.